Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests on Donnie and Dolly, including John Shannon standing by, are brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Tomorrow the Giants take on Portland at the LEC. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. Don't forget the Giants' annual Teddy Bear Toss game is happening December 9th at the Langley Event Center. Tickets are selling fast. Get yours now at vancouvergiants.com/tickets as we bring in NHL Analyst, co-host of the Bob McCown podcast, John Shannon. John, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, boys. How are things in lovely Vancouver? By the way, the new promo on television for the Donnie and Dolly show. Oh my goodness gracious! The one walking down the street, Rick and Donnie, and you're wearing the suit, and you got the phone up, and then Rick's breaking the scoop on the outside the arena. Oh man,
yeah,
that's big. That is big.
That took a week to shoot, by the way.
Hey, actually, I don't work for Czech, but I got to tell you, Carol Taylor's interview with Trevor Linden on BC Legends, wow. She got more out of Trevor Linden than any of us ever could.
We just had
I know.
We just had him on. What about our interview? Not in Carol's league? Yeah.
I was busy. But Carol Taylor, come on now.
She can do no wrong.
You can do no wrong, trust me.
Yeah, absolutely. You can ask some of the people around here. They'd agree. Hey, John, what are you reading into the Canucks' 9-2-1 start as they get ready to play in Ottawa tonight?
Well, first of all, isn't it grand that the Canucks can be on the road and sit in Ottawa and watch the Senators play on the road and then come back? So the Senators are on the back-to-back and the Canucks are rested in the capital. The amount of compliments is getting exhausting with this hockey club. Good goaltending, quality defense, depth at forward. I mean, the two guys that were outcasts at the beginning of the season, Tyler Myers and Connor Garland, are contributing. There's very little that's gone wrong with this start. And I think there's lots of people to point fingers at and say they deserve credit. But I think it's everywhere. We've talked about it tons of times. They had to get rid of their goal differential and they had to get it to a reasonable number. They've done that. They have to keep scoring. They've done that. They have to get better defense. They've done that. They need better goaltending. They've done that. What's the problem? I mean, the popcorn's tasting pretty good at Rogers Arena these days.
John, Craig Buttons told us that he thinks Quinn Hughes is the best player in the NHL right now, and he says not a lot of people back east know that. Obviously we talk a lot about the East not knowing what the Canucks are doing because of the time zone. But are people back there understanding what Quinn Hughes is doing?
I think there is a lot more notice. I think that people are starting to talk about it. Guys, just remember the 3 players of the week this week in the National Hockey League, all from the Pacific time zone.
Yep.
And that to me is an amazing story when you think of Mason McTavish, Cam Talbot, and Quinn Hughes, all 3 from the Pacific time zone. So there are a lot of people in the East now paying attention. In so many ways, the Canucks and the start that they've had are one of the 3 best stories in the game right now. Yeah. I mean, this was a season that started with all the fury and hype around Connor Bedard. Well, the Canucks have replaced that. Another guy, the kid from North Vancouver has been replaced by the team that plays downtown, and it truly is. It's an amazing story how well this team has played. Now, as quickly as it has occurred, it can quickly disappear, and I think that's probably what Rick Tockett's reminding everybody on a daily basis.
You know who's not doing well, John? The Oilers. What a mess. And just imagine if they lose in San Jose tonight. I mean, can you imagine if the Sharks beat the Oilers tonight? Oh, my goodness.
I'm not sure that the casualties would be singular in that scenario. Yeah. I just, first of all, I can't imagine it happening. The Oilers have put themselves in this predicament themselves. They have done it to themselves.
Yep.
They can't point at anybody. They can't. And I'm talking the players. I'm not talking the coaches, because I don't think the players have lost confidence in the coaching staff. But, Connor McDavid's to blame a little bit. Leon Draisaitl's to blame a little bit. Certainly the goaltending has been less than adequate. The defense has not been good. Everybody is involved in the failure of the Edmonton Oilers right now, and they better do it as a team in order to get through it. Now that, it's really kind of fascinating between Edmonton and Calgary, what's gone on.
Oh.
And it appears that Calgary seems to have righted the ship a little bit, and they were the ones that lost the Heritage Classic. We thought the team that would win the Heritage Classic would get out of the funk.
Yep.
And now it appears to be the team that lost the Heritage Classic is out of its funk.
Talking with John Shannon, I don't know if it's possible to feel sorry for somebody making $10.5 million a year. But those shots of Jonathan Huberdeau on the bench the other day in the third period, looking at blankly at his stick, those were hard to take in a way. And he was benched for that third period. Calgary at Toronto tomorrow. Any idea what's wrong with Jonathan Huberdeau, who came to Calgary in the wake of a 115-point season?
No, I don't. I've talked to a few people, tried to figure it out what's right or wrong. The one thing I can tell you is that if this had happened last year, we would all be dealing with the relationship between Jonathan Huberdeau and Darryl Sutter. Yeah. And we talked about that all season last year. This is not a coach-player issue. This is Jonathan Huberdeau knows who's at fault here. It's Jonathan Huberdeau. Huberdeau has to work through it himself. He has to regain his own confidence. I think the team has handled it as well as they could under the circumstances. It's hard to argue with what the team did when you consider they came from behind and won the game against Nashville with Huberdeau on the bench. I loved what the players said about their teammate after the game. I loved what Ryan Huska said about Huberdeau after the game. This is on Jonathan Huberdeau, and we do know, and I've been watching him play since he was in the Quebec Major Junior League. This guy is a talent, and he will get out of it. We just don't know when. And I think that's the thing. His confidence is gone, and he has to find a way to regain that confidence.
Okay, we talked about the Leafs playing Calgary. Of course, they played the Canucks on Saturday. Senators beat the Leafs 6-3, 3 unanswered late third-period goals for the Senators. Do you understand, and the Leafs have lost 5 of 6, do you understand why the Leafs are getting booed right now in their own building?
Yeah, the parallels between what's going on in Edmonton and in Toronto are comparable, and a lot of them you can point to the same positions. They have superstars in Toronto and superstars in Edmonton, but what's going on on the blue line in Toronto mirrors what's going on in Edmonton. The goaltending issues in Toronto, I think there's a belief that Joseph Woll is adequate enough to solve their problems, but the Toronto blue line has been sieve-like in the last few games, and they can't get the puck out of their own zone. And if you can't get the puck out of your own zone well enough, you're not going to get it to all those high-flying forwards. There's some better stories in Toronto when you think that Nylander's playing well, Matthews is leading the league in goals, Mitch Marner can score, but their depth and their bottom six are really an issue right now, and that's something that Brad Treliving, who has vested interests in both sides tomorrow night, in the Flames and the Maple Leafs, will be fascinating to see what he says.
John, I look at the Bruins, and again, this was the offseason where they're going to go down. They lost Bergeron. They gave up so many draft picks at the deadline. It didn't work. They're out in round one. They're 10-1-1. They're 10-1-1 again. I mean, these guys, I know the playoff success hasn't been there, but, man, they just keep pumping out good teams regardless of who they lose.
It's amazing when you put on the Bruins sweater how much more confident you feel.
Yeah.
The aura that a Patrice Bergeron and a David Krejci have projected for years, I think has been moved over to some of the other players, too, obviously Brad Marchand. We talk about the deficiencies of defense in Edmonton and Toronto. That's a great defense in Boston. Hampus Lindholm, you guys saw Hampus Lindholm play more than most guys have in the NHL because of the Pacific Division. Lindholm is a stud. He's been very good. Charlie McAvoy, once the suspension is over, will be back and be another great player for them. Their defense and their goaltending has done what it needed to do in the short period of time. And on top of that, guys like Jake DeBrusk and Charlie Coyle Pavel Zacha, not necessarily household names. Matt Poitras, who played Guelph last year. Boy, oh boy, they do some things right in Boston, but putting on the jersey and believing in what the Bruins stand for is a big part of their success.
John, thanks for this. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
Let's go Lions.
That's right.
Thanks for that.